All right, what's up, guys? So today we're going to go over the balancing patch notes that just came out. We're specifically looking for how they might affect RTA. Some requested things in here, some surprises. We're just going to kind of dig right into it. So the first one is the Manon nerf. Manon's been a bit of an issue in pretty much in all content of the game, and I think it's not so much problematic as some other monsters as it is just not fun. Like, whenever it takes away your turn on its turn, it's really frustrating, and I think that's the main problem. Like, there's a lot of monsters that take a disproportionate amount of your turns, like Hathor, but there's counterplay against them. There's passive cleanse, there's, you can do something to them before they get to do their thing. You can outspeed. Manon just sits there and every once in a while completely screws you over. So that's no good. So they've changed it a little bit. I'm not even sure this is much of a nerf. I don't know that it changes what she does a ton. Maybe in arena, just regular arena, it's a nerf. But everywhere else, I don't know. I'm not seeing it because they put the stun back up to 100%. So on the revenge, it's still 100% stun, whereas it went down to 50, which felt a little better and definitely lowered the win rate in RTA. We noticed the win rate going down. In exchange for that, they gave Manon the Molly treatment, where she does her passive for everything except herself. So she won't revenge on herself. She won't cancel out damage on herself, which is great. But in RTA, she's pretty safe compared to Molly. Like, she's harder to defense break because she has her own permanent immunity. She has her own defense buff. People might build her more tanky so that you have to put all your damage into her, which will make her really hard to kill. So I don't know. That could be a bit of an issue there. And it's if you bring Manon into the right situation, it's really hard to kill Manon anyway. And so then she'll just be doing her stuff to everybody else with a better stun chance. So this is the very slightest of nerfs, in my opinion, or maybe even a side grade. Because the stun going up to 100 is no joke. I mean, because you use her against fast turn 1 AoE in a lot of cases, and they don't want to do single target on her, so they might not find as much success as they would otherwise. So that's kind of an interesting change. I think we're still going to see her in a lot of areas. I think in terms of arena, it's kind of a pung bake buff, because just like with Molly, pung bake is super effective when you can put all your damage into one unit and then splash it into other ones. So you can just target her down, put all your damage into her, splash it to everyone else, and in theory, you'll do tons of damage. You won't be able to cancel out the pung bake hit because it'll go right into her. So that's that one. Fire Hollyberry, this is not RTA relevant at all. Dark Hollyberry is a great RTA unit, and this is a very needed nerf, increasing the cooldown time because she gets an extra turn off her 2, and so she can proc Violent more often than once a turn, sort of. She can just kind of have her stuff up all the time. So increasing that a little bit is great. She seems to always have her shenanigans up and is basically a force ban in a lot of situations. This makes her a little more killable. So I think that's fair. That's totally fair. Then we got the Veronica nerf. They just took away the attack speed scaling, which is a small little nerf. I don't think it's going to make much of a difference because what Veronica does is so reliant on, the cooldowns, the strips, and the additional damage. So she's still going to do a ton of damage. You could probably math it out and put a little bit more attack power on her to make up for the speed lost, something like that. You could do an attack artifact now instead of HP or something and try to make that up. I don't think it's a big deal. You also catch a little nerf on the water one, but then they buff her up, which I really like when they're targeting one unit, and they buff up the one they're trying not to nerf into the ground a little bit, which is really nice because the water one's already in a tough spot. So it's just a straight damage increase, not a ton, just a little bit. So in theory, it keeps it the same. I mean, I haven't done the math. I'm assuming they've done the math, maybe. But it should just be a little buff to the passive to kind of put her back where she was while still nerfing the light one. Which already the fact that they hit Manon, Dark Hollyberry, and Veronica 1, 2, 3 is really nice because those are problems. Those are big problems in RTA. And I think just the other day I was on Shizuo's tier list, and I was like, the entire top end of RTA being LDs is, I think, not super healthy. You need to bring them down a little bit instead of just leave them alone because no one complains about them because they're so rare. So this, at least with the Hollyberry and the Veronica, that's kind of nice. And I don't think the owners of these could be too offended because they're not breaking the monsters. They're just tamping them down a little bit because they were out of control. The Manon, I think, might need more adjustment. We'll just have to see how it plays. But in RTA, I don't know that affects when you bring Manon as much as some of the other ones. So something to think about. All right, Dark Dice. I don't know. What is this change? Ratio of the enemy target's remaining HP to be readjusted increased. So is that a buff or a nerf? I'm not sure exactly how to read that. It's either of the target's remaining HP to be readjusted increased. I don't know. We'll see what they put in the game. It'll either leave it with less health or more health, and you'll see. I don't know why Dark Dice needs to be nerfed, but maybe it's some high-end siege thing that is a problem everywhere. I don't know. I haven't seen it. All right, Puppeteers. Puppeteers have been pretty much useless ever since they were released. That's going to change. They're going to start to make their way into relevance, and I think the buffs are very thoughtful and not over the top. We didn't just create a new Oliver here. They slightly tweaked them to slowly bring them into relevance, which is great. Fire, Wind, Dark, Cursed Apple, which is the bomb, stun from 50 to 100. So what's nice about this is you stun when you place the bomb, and when the bomb goes off, it stuns again, in theory. You know, you're getting res checks every time. That's really, really nice. A 50% stun is useless. You can't rely on it. It's not dependable. But 100% stun, that's something. And if you're a bomber, you, in theory, have a pretty clear path to lay a bomb. You're not concerned with immunity because you've already dealt with that issue, or you wouldn't bring a bomber. So that's a really, really nice little buff. I think we'll see that help quite a bit. Water and Light, Improvise, increase the attack speed of the ally target for one turn. A single target attack speed increase is really nice. It's underrated. And the Water Puppeteer was already somewhat relevant. And I think giving a little bitty speed buff is going to really... Because it's basically, instead of 50% bar, you're getting 50% bar plus the benefits of a one-turn speed buff. I mean, it's not a 2-turn, which would be really good, but a 1-turn speed buff. I mean, it's going to just speed that monster into getting a turn even quicker. So I like that a lot. The Wind Puppeteer. This is their passive. Every turn it silences the target with the highest attack bar, I think, for 1 turn. Now it silences them for 2 turns, which is really nice because if you look at the Cursed Apple, we've got 2 turns of stun with the bomb. Now we've got 2 turns of silence every turn on the highest attack bar. So in theory, you can manipulate your attack bar, or the enemy's attack bars will be slightly different, and you'll have multiple silences going simultaneously while you're laying down bombs and you're gaining bar from turn 1. So I think the Wind Puppeteer is going to see a little more play. Maybe not in RTA because there's so many good wind units, and wind in general is kind of down bad. But this is definitely bringing the wind one into a more relevant position. There's certain situations where you do want a bomb and a silence over pure damage. I mean, we're talking about like some of those super bruiser teams that have things that are hard to deal with. Just laying a bomb can cut through them pretty quick. So I might play around with this a little bit. I definitely want to see what it does to the win rate in general because I could see it bringing it up. It just has a little more utility. Light Puppet, I don't know. A cleanse turns into immunity. I don't know enough about the Light Puppet, if that's good or not. That seems kind of like a side grade, because immunity is good, cleanse is good, and you just bring them in different situations, so it just changes how you'd play this unit. The Dark Puppeteer got the biggest buff, I think, of the patch. They just decided, all right, we're going to make one Puppeteer a chase monster, and it is this one, the Dark Puppeteer. So now it is... You gain immunity against all attack bar decreasing effects. That alone is really, really good for a single unit. I'm struggling to think of any unit that has that. There's a couple that kind of manipulate a little bit like Jackson or the new Fire Cookie where they decreased it for everyone. This is just, you just can't be decreased. In addition, removes all inability effects on the allies at the start of each turn and increases the attack bar of the allies with the removed inability effects by 30%. So if you try to stun my team, they are no longer stunned, and they all get 30% bar. So if you're relying on a hard CC, or even a soft CC with Hathor or something, this guy just says no, and he's a must-ban for your team. If you go all in on attack bar decrease and CC, this guy just says no. So pretty nice, I think. All right, here's a cool little buff. Archangels, Fire and Dark. Little baby heal. HP of all allies by 20% of the damage dealt. It doesn't deal a lot of damage, so it's not going to heal a lot. But, I mean, you never know. If you hit really hard, it has a low cooldown, so it's a little 20% heal fairly often. And it has a defense break. So defense break, do maybe 6k, right? Heal 1200 for everyone. It's not a ton, but it might be enough to get over the hump and continue being alive, right? So that's pretty nice. That's pretty nice. It's almost like a like an artifact that does additional damage, except it's healing. Like, it's just constant little bits of healing to your team. To maybe offset some of the additional damage artifacts. So I like that change. It might make Veligul a little more useful. I think Fermion is useful occasionally. The Fermion owners are like probably pretty hesitant to bring him out. These units suffer from additional damage artifacts because they have to be built on defense, which is susceptible to those sorts of things. So, but still a nice little buff. Light Weapon Master, damage increased by 20%. Whenever you see something like this, you're like, it was not designed to do what they wanted him to do. 20% is huge. 20% is we messed up. He's supposed to do damage and he's not. So we're just going to give him a straight 20%. So nice buff if you own him, but kind of troubling that that is what was needed for this unit. Fire Sky Surfer already has its niche use. This just makes it better. Skill cooldown of the selected time when you target by 1 turn. A 1 turn skill cooldown. Not great, but again, we're bombing this thing anyway, so I don't know, it seems okay. Now the Water Demon, this is the buff that everyone has said this unit needs to be effective. Instead of getting a full attack bar when it comes back, it gets a turn, which means you can't cut it, which is so good. Everybody who fights these things can pretty much time it up and cut it, and it's no big deal. You got rid of the shield, which is no big deal because they come back with no health, so you just burst through the shield and him. But now he's gonna get a crack at you every time he comes back. Makes him more useful at what you want him to do. So I'll definitely be playing with mine in a variety of areas. I mean, that's just very nice. Chow, they unnerfed him. I don't know. They gave Chow more healing. They're like, Chow's still awful. How about giving more healing? He's gonna be the same. He's still Chow. Little more healing's great. He's still not gonna be super RT relevant, I don't think, because he doesn't do much with the attack bar. He just kind of sits there, and he's not Camilla, where he can just take a million hits. They thought Okeanos should be played a little more. 30% additional damage if the enemy has a harmful effect. It's not per harmful effect, it's just a straight 30%, which is kind of nice. Sometimes things say increases 10% per harmful effect, and you have to have 3 harmfuls on them. Any single one harmful effect, additional damage damages up by 30%, which means if he stuns on the first hit of Rain of Stones, the other hits are going to hit harder. If you defense break, he's going to hit pretty hard. So they're making him not as control-y, more additional damage and just damage. Dark, see Emperor, Mana, decreases the HP of all enemies except the target by 30 to 40. Just more damage. They're like, this guy doesn't do anything, so more damage. There's a lot, that's kind of the theme of this patch. It's just power creep. They're like, this unit that used to do things that was great, no one's using them because there's better options, and so they just bumped up what they did before. So you'll see it here in the Water Art Master. Everything he did is just, he's doing it 5% more. Because that used to be enough, and that used to be what was great, and people decided that, okay, there's a million ways to deal with this. They made the Moor and the Bomb guys just so good at taking bar that Heigang couldn't do what he needed to do. So they just said, all right, we're just going to give Heigang a little bit more of Heigang, and hopefully that'll be enough to make him relevant again. On that note, you can kind of tell how power creep is affecting the game in that they're buffing Beast Riders. There was a point where people cried about Beast Riders, and rightly so, because they did nuts stuff. The water one, they're increasing the amount of bar it'll gain your team. They're making it more of a more reliable bar booster, which is kind of crazy. But no one uses the water one because there's so many good bruisers that just don't care about what the Beast Riders do. So the water one's going to be a little increased. I don't know if that'll matter. It used to matter pre-Super Bruisery Revengey meta. So we'll see, because you have to build them damage, and pretty much anything built damage can be countered by something built damage that lives forever, like Manon or Camilla or anything. So we'll see if that ends up mattering. Dark Beast Rider, a little buff, which Dark I think is already pretty good for Beast Riders, but this isn't a major buff. A 1-turn silence with a 50% chance of one skill. I don't know. Not the best thing in the world, but it's something. All right, and then here's, I think, what I find kind of sad is that they had to buff all the Assassin's Creed units because they designed them underpowered, which made the release event a bummer. Like, it's not fun pulling something that's useless. And they had an entire, basically, marketing campaign selling you these units that are useless. And so even the people who normally spend, they read them and they say, why would I want any of that? And Comtos is like, spend $300 and get these new units. And people are like, you know what I can get for $300? Something that's not trash. It doesn't have to be in Summoner's War. It can be for my Switch or for Xbox or whatever. And so I think if they're going to release units, they should release them in a usable state, because that makes you excited when you pull them. I pulled almost every Nat 5 Elemental of this event, and when I pulled them, I wasn't excited because I knew they were bad. I knew they might get a buff at some point, but it's not exciting pulling a unit and be like, well, in 4 months, maybe I'll be able to use them after the shine of them is gone. So if I could suggest one thing to them about releasing new units or collabs or anything, is make them usable. They don't have to be OP, but please make them useful right away. And it's really easy to make things useful. You can look at something that's already used and make it a little bit better. Look at Bulldozer. People use Bulldozer. Make a better Bulldozer. Look at Bastet. Make a better Bastet. You know, like, that's the easiest way to make something usable, is just, you know, even a different element. You know, what about a Wind Bulldozer, right? That's cool. It's interesting. It's different. they just need to make them useful right away. So we'll go through some of these buffs, but that's the thing that drives me crazy about when they're releasing underpowered units. And I get kind of why they're doing it. They don't want to completely shake up the meta or make something that just takes over, but you got to be a little bit ambitious on these sort of things, or you're not, as a business, you're not going to make that much money. You're going to make some, but not as much as you could otherwise. I did not buy a single one of these packs. If one of them was Oliver level strength coming in, or even, I don't know, like Chunkpung level or something a little Manon level, something that is up there and in theory attainable because it's not LD, maybe I don't do that. Maybe I go after one of those things. So just something to think about. All right, off my soapbox. Let's take a look at what we got. So we got Fire Cassandra. Removes all harmful effects granted on yourself when you're inflicted with fatal damage. Wherever you're going to use Fire Cassandra, this is just great because she doesn't just get the Endure, she gets the Endure and then she's ready to rock and go again, which is really, really nice. The Wind Cassandra attacks against enemies will always have the attribute advantage. This is the one that is the take away their bar and give them glance. And now it is a Theomars against everybody, which means she needs, is it 25% less crit? 15% less crit? Whatever attribute advantage is. You can build her less crit for her skill 3 and she'll still crit. I think it's 15%. So that's kind of nice. And this kind of is to my point. This kind of makes her into a wind Poseidon, right? Poseidon doesn't glance on the skill 3 and reduces attack bar and does a bunch of damage. She now doesn't glance on the skill 3 and does a bunch of damage, and she's wind. So that's kind of nice if you're facing something heavy on water, right? And she also has the ignored defense on her skill 2, which makes for even like more interesting punch damage coming back on her other turn, which is kind of nice. All right, Fire, Wind, Dark Cassandra increases the damage by 5% per beneficial effect, so buff her up and watch her ignore defense even harder. Water and Light Cassandra increases your attack bar by 100% after using the skill. I don't remember exactly what the skill is. I think it's the non-reliable defense break, which it will not be a non-reliable forever. If they want these units to be used, they will make that reliable. It'll make it 100%. There might be some sort of little thing where they, decrease something else, but it will need to be 100% if we're going to use these. I have the Light Cassandra. I don't need to play with something that has a less than 100% defense break AoE. That's not a good idea. Her third skill, the light one, is a 2-turn stun, I believe, which is nice. Especially you defense break and then stun right away. That's a nice little combo, right? It's not an additional turn. It's 100% bar, but we need that defense break to continue to climb. So nice little buff. Not quite there yet. All right, Water, Light, Bayek. Decrease the enemy's bar by 25% with an 80% chance. Now decrease the enemy's attack bar by 25% with an 80% chance, and you basically steal the bar. So you Oliver him a little bit. Just good for turn cycling. Pretty much most relevant units in the game right now turn cycle or reduce other people's turns. Anyone that just gets a turn and does nothing to affect their bar or your opponent's bar is pretty out of the meta right now. So this is nice. This might make them a little more viable. I don't know. We'll just have to see. Dark Bayek, Eagle's Deception, stuns the target for 1 turn and removes 1 beneficial effect to remove a beneficial effect and stun. That is great. They are reverse Chung-Punging him here. They're like, remember when Chung-Pung stripped and then did all the shenanigans? Well, this guy now gets strip and 1 shenanigan. Just the stun, right? So, yeah, good buff. Good buff for Dark Bayek. All right, Ezio, decrease the attack bar by 50% with a 50% chance. Stuns for 1 turn with a 50% chance. This is better, but it's still kind of bad. A 1-turn stun is on his own not very good, and a 50% chance of 1-turn stun is not great. It's better than a 50% chance at 50% bar, because this technically a stun is 100% bar. They're losing an entire turn, right? You're not pushing them back, but they're losing an entire turn. But still, not a great one. A little bitty buff. It's fine. Light Ezio ignores defense. Yes, that's great. Ignore defense is great. It's just the multipliers is what'll matter. His lead skill is bad, so the multipliers have to be pretty good to make him relevant. But yeah, not bad, not bad. Dark Ezio, this is interesting. The damage of the additional attack on your turn is increased by 100% against light only. So I think the design thought here is there's a lot of light monsters that revenge. Cat. There's Artamiel, there's Kinky, there's a bunch of light monsters that like to revenge. He can't be revenged, and he'll do 100% more damage to them. I mean, definitely has PvE uses, right? Because 100% more damage in like Light Beast and stuff like that is great. Super, super, super niche in RTA if you are planning on countering Artamiel with him. The problem he has is he just sits there. He's one of those units that doesn't do anything with bar. And so, I mean, he's just going to sit there, right? Which he's not going to get stunned by Artamiel on the revenge, which is good. he's not going to get defense broken by Kinky, but I mean, Kinky does more damage to him too because Kinky has elemental advantage, so I don't know. It's a little something. They know he's bad, so maybe they'll keep working on him. All right, the Succubi. Basically, everybody sleeps more. That's just the summary. Everybody sleeps more. We're absorbing more attack bar on the water. We are fire one, doesn't matter. The light one, 1 to 2 turns. RNG Hathor. Elementally neutral, maybe as good as Hathor. It doesn't do the bar though, so probably not. But it does do glance, so there's something there. Water, Wind, Light, now the skill 2 does a 1-turn sleep. Very, very nice. And then Dark, instead of all this stuff, it now does 50% defense ignore, which is really nice. So they'll see a little more play. Water one in particular might, especially in Siege, might see more play. I don't know. But yeah. Then the bombers. I really like the Time Bomb. Water, Wind, Light. Increase your attack bar by 10% per bomb. So if you get a full 4 stack of bomb, you're getting 40% bar, right? Which is really, really nice. That's a nice cycle for a bomber. Especially the light one. We're going to be cycling bomb into control, into additional damage skill 1. I think the light one is the big winner here. This damage increased by 10%, crushing into not glance. Well, I don't understand why, you know? Maybe it's to mess with things that care about like causing glance, like a molly maybe. I mean, does this make the water kobold bomber I don't know. It's weird. It seems like a side grade. I'm sure there's a reason for it. I can't think of it. I mean, crushing hits do a lot of damage. They don't glance. These now don't glance, but they deal more damage. I don't know why. Maybe someone can explain why that was the choice. But I think light's the winner here. It's element neutral. It's going to cycle. It's not going to glance. I don't know. Kind of weird. All right, Rakshashas. I don't think the water one matters. Fire and light are fantastic. Damage increasing by 15% per harmful on burning swing. We're just thinking R5. I already have my red one in R5. I think now I'll have my light one in R5. I think it's an R5 change. The dark one, I mean, decreases the enemy defense for 2 turns versus guaranteed stun. That's just better. Each attack has 75% chance. That's very, very nice. Brownie Magicians, again, the crushing into not glance. I wonder if they're phasing out crushing or something. I just don't understand. I don't understand the change. Because they increase the damage. I'm assuming this is a straight up side grade. I don't know. So that's weird. And then the last one is... That's a cat. The last one is the Gemini, which is a fantastic change to Gemini. Gemini now can strip regardless. You don't have to worry about buffs. You can Gemini Bastet. You can Gemini whatever. Anything that buffs up Gemini, which is really, really nice. So that's a great little change there. Other than that, that's pretty much everything. I mean, there's a lot going on. It's all, I think, pretty deftly done. I think... At the very least, you could look at this and be like, they seem to know what monsters are the problem. Did they hit everything? No. Are they ever going to hit everything? No. But they're working towards kind of being sensitive to over buffing, I think. And they're just giving a lot of things a little nudge, hopefully in the right direction. And then, you know, they realize that the Assassin's Creeds were a huge issue, so they're working on that. Anyway, that's my take. If you guys have any thoughts, or am I missing something, or you understand Crush versus Glance and why they would do that, let me know, and I will catch you on the next video. Take care, everybody.